Welcome to Sewing Street, to my second show. And look at all this colour. We have an amazing show for you today with one of the best offers I've seen in a very, very long while. But very firstly, let's start off. My name is John Cole Morgan. I am an avid quilter. I've been quilting for about 6 years now. I run a very big Facebook page where it's very kind and supportive. Everybody gives advice and there's no nastiness and it's just very kind and lovely. I quilt probably 8 hours a day, or I try to, which is great when I can. And I'm just absolutely addicted to all things fabric, all things patterns. And I cannot tell you the joy I have about being with you and being at Sewing Street. It is so wonderful. And Sewing Street is now a new show on a channel called Shopping Quarter. Shopping Street? Shopping Quarter? Shopping Quarter. Sorry. Sorry. So the website is www.sewingstreet.com. And if you'd like to buy from us today, you just need to pop onto the website and you will see a lot of amazing items that are not only on today's show, but all other shows that we've had. If you'd like to, and the website is now on your screen, www.sewingstreet.com. All the products from today's show are on the website underneath, and also shows from products from other shows as well, which they're amazing. So have a little look on that and you can see, and I'm looking at it on the iPad now. And it's just literally sewingstreet.com, and you can see all the different products that we've got here. And you can see I'm doing this backwards and upside down. So you can see there the amazing product that's hidden under here, which I'm not allowed to show you just yet. And you can see there's the pattern for today's quilt. And I'm going to expand on that to give you an idea, because of course I cannot do a small quilt. I have to do them absolutely enormous. And having said that, I can't remember how big it is. So I'm hoping one of the ladies in the room next door is going to do that. So we're in our studio today and the wall's right there, so I can pat them and say hello to everybody. And also don't forget, we've got our UK-based call centre, because I know a lot of us have questions about products we want to buy, and the call centre is the best place to do. The numbers on your screen at the moment, and they're very knowledgeable, know exactly what they're doing and what their products are, and you'll always feel very comfortable speaking to them. And thank you all so much for your messages yesterday. I was so nervous and you were all so kind, and I cannot thank you all. A big shout out to Jan Hill. You've made my day. Thank you so, so much. And I'm also going to do a second shout out if that's okay. My husband is in Glasgow with his grandmother today. The most amazing Jean, 98 next month. Thank you for joining us, Jean. And Jean, 98 years old, is doing it on an iPad, looking on the website. And oh, shame, I'm so sorry I'm not there, Jean, but I'm giving you a big hug and a big wave. She's going to murder me for that. So, yes. So what I'm going to do now is, this quilt is enormous, so forgive me, I'm not going to be able to give you the whole thing. So I'm going to give you this whole screen. And so this is my design, and I've tried to do use very simple fabrics, being spots and plains, which we've all got in our stash. And it's also, you can use your own fabrics on it, and I'll tell you the tip on how to do that, because we've listened to you. We've just got the pattern, which will be great, because you know it's always good, you've got the kits, but sometimes you don't want to use the kit, because apparently our husbands tell us we've got too much fabric. What do they know? So forgive me a second while I do some acrobatics trying to get this over the bookcase. Hopefully this will work. Oh, first time. I could never do that again if I tried. But I'm going to just sprawl it out for visual. So now what we're going to do, just one quick thing with this, if you can zoom in on that, if you don't mind. When I did this, I was very keen on the quilting, because I think all of us look at the product, but we don't actually think of the quilting afterwards. If you can see here, I've used beautiful circles going around, and that's a really nice way of offsetting these really sharp edges. And look there, I told you my points didn't match. You can see, we all do it, we all do it. Ah. So this mat was on yesterday, and I'm going to show you just how amazing it is. Going through here, and you can see you've got the ironing board, and it's going to come in really handy today. Now we've got this amazing bundle here, and it's the first bundle on Sewing Street. I am very honoured. And there's actually, if I'm not mistaken, 15 meters of fabric here. And the instructions are completely free when you get the bundle. You can see the price there. It's £111.99. And you've got half a metre of each of the 27 colours for the Bargello. But also, we've given you an extra metre and a half of the navy to put on for your border. Because we've got this beautiful thick border there. Now, the fabric I've used is slightly different, but you can see, you can't even tell the difference. You can tell. But the border being in the navy, it just frames that quilt so perfectly. So when you've got your fabric, you'll find that the navy is 1.5 meters longer, and you'll cut that there. But there's 15 meters of fabric, and the colors, it's just the most beautiful rainbow, and you can actually do the stroking on it, and they're so, so lovely. But the best thing about this bundle is you can make 2 of those quilts out of all this fabric. You won't have enough for the border for the second one, but you'll be able to make the middle of 2 of these quilts. Now for me, what I like as a beginner, I like to be able to buy a project that's not too expensive, and it's because we all buy these expensive projects and they're amazing, and then it's cost so much and you think, oh, I can't cut into that fabric. And I wanted to make sure that the first bundle I brought you was a good quality fabric that you can use and love, which is still beautiful and still lovely to work with, but you're not going to feel quite so conscious about not working with the product. Because if you're not going to actually cut them up and make quilts, you shouldn't be buying them. Well, I suppose you can stroke them. But just this, so much fabric, 15 meters. And the great thing is you can make one quilt and then you can just put the remaining long quarter of each fabric in your stash and use it for something else. And Bargellos are a really lovely, simple way of doing a quilt to start with, because it's straight line sewing, you do a bit of cutting and it's all straight line sewing, so you will be perfect on your 1/4 inch seam. And the great thing is you've got your instructions as well. This is all my design, and I absolutely am addicted to Bargellos. This one is called Angie, after one of my friends, and you can see how beautiful that quilt is there, and it just flows so, so beautifully. I've just noticed now, looking at the graphics on the screen, they've spelt my name wrong. Oh, shocking. It's all right, good that I'm forgiven. You owe me a donut. Whoever it was, you owe me a donut. But now the great thing with this project, which I think is really important, I'm going to pull you in, if you don't mind, if we can go to the overhead. These fabrics are so gorgeous and they're so lovely. But there are people who don't actually want to buy fabrics, and everybody's mentioned, or not everybody, people have said on the website we'd like to buy patterns on their own. So if you want to use all these fabrics, great, but if you don't and want to use your ones at home, what I'm just going to tell you to be very cautious of, you can see as you follow this dark line, you've got a really bright colour underneath it, and then over here you've got another dark line, and then a very light colour, and over here you've got a dark colour and a very bright colour. Those are really, really important. So when you're looking through your stash to do this, you are going to be able to then pick a dark fabric to make the line and then follow it by a really, really bright fabric. It's quite hard to do, and I suggest that you lay all the fabrics out like I've got here and then hang them over the edge of a desk and look at them from far away. That was how this has been done. And this is an exclusive collection today. The fabrics that are in here are different to the fabrics that are in the quilt. There are about 4 or 5 fabrics that have changed, because I wanted to make sure that the fabrics that I brought to you on Sewing Street were slightly different. And whenever you've made a quilt, you think, ooh, if that one was slightly brighter or slightly darker, it's important to always then try and change. And I was lucky enough to be able to bring these amazing colours through here. And if you can't be bothered to go through your stash and actually do it, because it does take a while, and you want to actually do this, the pattern, the fabrics, all included, enough of these fabrics to go for 2 of these of the Bargellos, and that's for £111.99. Amazing value, and I think that it's a really good buy, and also it is quite a faff working the colours out. Do it if you can, just follow those guidelines of the dark and the light, and it'll be a great success on you. So I think what's really good is I'm going to show you how much fabric you get, because this is a ½ metre piece. And look how much that is. And you can tell that is just huge. You can barely see me. But it's a lot of fabric. And for each quilt, you're only going to use, for each of the Bargellos, you're going to use that much. So you're going to have this much left after, and it's from all 27 different colours. You're going to have this much left over. The only one that's different, as I mentioned before, is the navy, because this is a lot of fabric, and it's 2 meters, which is taller than I am. So I'm going to open it up, but you can see it's huge. And this is only half of it, because if I do width of fabric, well, we all know what 2 meters of fabric looks like, but I'm going to try and... Do you think I should try and do what Neil did, that disappearing act he did when he tripped over his mic? Wasn't that amazing? If you're all on the Facebook page, Sewing Street fans, do pop on there because you get some amazing things that happen. We did the behind the scenes thing with Neil when he did that and then disappeared. But you can see just how huge this fabric is. And you're going to have at least 1/4 meter left over of this to do another project. And for a first ever kit on Sewing Street, I'm absolutely blown over that they've been able to take this on and do it. I'm very, very touched. And I hope you can get it. And it is completely different to anything that we've done before because the colours have changed and they just pop so beautifully. And you can see on the screen there the different colours. And what's so interesting is when you put them together in a Bargello, people are always a bit off about, oh, it's just plains and spots. But look how effective it is on this quilt. It's just so beautiful. And the reason I wanted to use spots and plains is because people have just never, people I think are afraid of doing them and they're not quite sure what to do with them. So we all have them in our stashes, blenders, and we never use them. And then when I saw this and I came up with this design, I just thought, oh, it's so beautiful. It's amazing how you keep finding threads on them all. So with the instructions, I'm just hearing now that we've got a limited edition of these instructions now if you're going to use your own stash. The graphic is coming up now. You can see that that's $9.99, and that's for you to use your own product. And they are limited edition because we're going to give it a try, see how it goes. And then each pattern will get this key on how to do it. And if anybody's ever used Excel, I'm not going to show the whole thing on it, but you can see that there's different columns and everything, and we're going to come to that in the demo. And the great thing about doing this with the demo, it'll always be on YouTube. You just check onto the YouTube channel and subscribe to Sewing Street. There's a subscribe button as well as the alarm button. If you click those, you'll always be told when a new thing's coming up. And the great thing about the bundle is that all of your instructions will be completely free, and then once you go back to the YouTube video, if you're a little bit lost with the instructions, which I don't think you will be because the photos are really good, you can then refer to the YouTube video that we're doing today, and you'll be able to refer back to what it was that I spoke about and what I mentioned and how it changes ever so slightly. We're going to do the fabric key, which is vital. You must do the fabric key. And it's just all on, the great thing about Sewing Street is that everything is on the website, always available for you on YouTube, and you'll be able to go back and refer to it at any point. Important bit of information before we get going. Wow. So, wow. Sorry, they're talking in my ear at the same time. So, since we've been on air, we are down to less than 20 bundles of this kit. So if you are interested in doing it, if it's in your basket, that's great, but you do need to check out because it's not yours until you've checked out. And don't worry about the P&P, it's $3.95 all day, so if you wanted to do a checkout now and you go back onto our exclusive first ever Creative Grids ruler, which I love. And the great thing about this, for this project, is that they've got the black lines. You can see all of the fabric through this ruler, and it is so great. And the great thing about this is our first ever time of having Creative Grids, and it's the start of a wonderful partnership, which I'm looking forward to as well. This is $23.99, and obviously, this is a really good price. Anybody who's ever gone and looked at these before, that's a really good price. Premium product. And as you can see on my shirt there, you've got the white lines and the black lines, which is really important because sometimes we do cut darker fabric. Having the white lines there also just helps you guide with a 1/4 inch of where you are. Really, really good. First ever Creative Grids. We're not only going to talk about this more during the demo, you're going to see me use it. So now I'm going to get going on this. So a couple of things I have somewhere done a few. Here are a few I prepared at home earlier. Now I have to say, every one of us have projects which we do, and they just are so relaxing. And I found this so wonderful to do because all you're doing is sewing straight lines and you're sewing your strips together and it's just so wonderful. You can put a box set on the telly, you can ignore the husband for at least 6 hours, and you just sew, and it's wonderful. Because also if you're struggling, and as a beginner, I think the most important thing you've got to learn is consistency. I'm not one of those people who are going to go, oh, your 1/4 inch isn't right. All I'm going to say to you is I don't care if your 1/4 inch is a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, it just has to be the same all the way through this project. So make sure you just keep it and be consistent. If you're going to do it on 2 different machines, I'd suggest you don't do that because each one of our feet are slightly different. It's really, really important to make sure you're doing it on the same project. I like to do it in 1 day or 2 days and just sit down and do it all in one go because then you're cutting everything in one go. We all cut things ever so slightly differently. Some days we pay more attention than others. You know what I'm talking about. So that is the way that I would do it. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull all these beautiful fabrics out and I'm going to show you how you cut these. And as you know, I'm very lazy, so I multi-cut. And the great thing is we've got a beautiful, beautiful rotary cutters that you can then work on getting a nice, thick, beautiful new blade in. And I'm going to slide these along. I'm going to slide these along just over here. Now, some of the colours, as I said to you before, have changed. And in setting all of this up, I've forgotten which ones I've changed. So I'm going to pull these all out. So forgive me. I'm going to just do a little recap to my... This is what you're going to end up with. You're going to make many ones of these. Many ones of these. So I'm just going to go through and double check that I have got these the right way round. So that one's slightly different, that one's slightly different. I'm doing it the wrong way round. That's why they're different. And the great thing with this is once you've done this and you've made the fabric, I'm doing it again, sorry. So the great thing with all of this is that obviously you can now go and you can purchase the solid fabrics as well, and you can then do different projects with them, and you can make cushions, and you can then, because we all like a good cushion to go with our projects, because when you make a quilt, the cushions I think are always forgotten, and you don't end up... It was in the right order when we started this, so forgive me, I've moved everything around. We've had a message from Sandra. She says that I'm doing great this morning. Yesterday was terrible. You were all so kind. Oh, and she loves my Bargello design. You are very kind. Thank you. You can stay for as long as you like. And that one is the same. That's slightly different. That's slightly different. Well, the great thing with this is we're about to do... Actually, I'm going to do that now. Sorry. So, have you seen these scissors? These Fiskars scissors are just amazing. You probably won't have a graphic on that at the moment, but if you refer to the website, you'll be... Oh, look at them, professionals. They're popped up anyway. The great thing is that you can now go and get these pair of scissors, and you'll see now how easy it is. These scissors are so lovely, and they are so lovely. And look at that price. Fiskars scissors for that price. And the great thing is, I use these myself, and you can see that I use these myself. So all I'm doing is I'm cutting a tiny little bit of fabric off each corner, because you're going to need to make a fabric key. And the fabric key is so, so important, because if you don't get the fabric kit right, trust me, when you start this Bargello, you're going to be completely lost and not know what you're doing. Sorry. I should have prepared this earlier, but the great thing is you get to watch me using the scissors. The only one I'm a little worried about is in a few minutes I'm going to use the iron, and my husband's going to see that I can actually use an iron. So all these years where I've just looked at him blankly and gone, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Now I'm not going to be able to get away with that anymore. And the great thing with this is, because this, you can now measure with this, you'll see that that is now 20 inches, and all of the strips that you're cutting are 3 inches. So you're still going to have 2 inches on either side left over. So you won't worry about, oh gosh, I've cut a little bit out, I won't have a full strip. Promise you, you will have more than enough fabric. And there's enough here for 2 quilts, but also what I've done is We've all done it. You cut a piece 3 inches, and it was 2 1/4. And we've all done it, and to save you actually stitching it all together, you can then actually, you have got that spare 2 inches on there. And if you do want to do these in fat quarters, you can. The problem is you need to make sure that you've got at least 6 of them, and they need to be the same, because the fat quarters are shorter than the long quarters. I've completely ruined this layout, completely. So now we were going to show the bundle again, and I've just completely ruined it. Gosh, you can tell when a boy comes in a sewing room how you just destroy everything. This is the lovely bundle you saw earlier in the show is what you're going to get. You're not going to have had John going through and hacking little bits of it. There's a great picture on the website of the bundle, so please forgive me for doing this. But you also, as you all know, you're going to get 15 meters of fabric, which 3 instructions for this bundle, which is £111.99. You're kidding me. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, there are only 10 of these bundles left. If you want one, you need to hurry. We're not even halfway through the show, and we've only got 10 of these left. Please go and check out, if you are interested, our very first ever bundle for Sewing Street. Exclusive. They've never had these colours for this design before. Please, if you want it, make sure you get it. I don't want you to miss out. And the great thing is you get all the instructions, you get all these 15 meters of fabric. That alone, you can't even, if once you divide the pattern up and the cost of the fabric, you can see how little you're paying for it. Because we all know how much fabric costs. So the great thing with this is some of you would have seen the TV show that I was on last year with Kay Fassett, and I took all of these colours there. And I love this colour palette. I think it's really lovely, and I'm sorry, I disagree with Mr. Kay Fassett, who is the best man in the entire universe on colour, but I love this colourway, and I will always stand by it because it's beautiful. And it's got beige, and it's got brown in it, and it's got bright pink in it, and it's just a great thing. It's what you find in nature. It's what you find in life. So the great thing about this is some of you may not have watched the show. So when I went in, Kaif was so lovely and Brandon was so lovely. And the great thing is you know that Kaif is the man of colour and he's done everything so amazing. And this was most definitely the first time beige has ever been on that design wall. But it was just, I loved this colourway. It was really, really, really loved. And he wasn't unkind about it, and he said the greys were beautiful. He loved that. He just then says that you can always advance it and do it with different colours as well, which is where you can take the design and use it with your own stash, because we've all got beautiful fabric we can use. Just remember about the contrast from the dark to the light, and make sure you're using the right divisions between there, because you can see your movement. Because you can do a rainbow with it, you can do a different rainbow on it, but then it just kind of blends together if you haven't got much contrast. Because you can see just there in shot, you can see how the grey breaks the pink. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. You can see there from the pink to the grey, and where you pop, it's just such a great pop of colour. Have I cut this one? So I think someone's just measured it in. Sharon, you've messaged in. Thank you very much. She absolutely loves the colourway. Me too! See my smiley face on a Saturday morning. You're very kind. Thank you. It is Saturday, isn't it? Yes. Did I say Sunday? Sorry. Welcome to Saturday's show. We're very tired here at Sewing Street at the minute. There's a lot to do, a lot going on. So now we are down to single figures on this, so I'll keep you posted. If you are interested and it is in your basket, make sure you check out, because if you haven't checked out, it's not yours yet. Sorry, say that again? So what we're doing now is obviously we're live. So if you're watching this back after the show's finished at 10 o'clock today, the figures are single figures for the live show. So you might not be able to get it. But if it isn't on the website and we haven't got it on the website, call the call centre, because they'll be able to tell you when it's coming back into stock. I'm sure if we've got, I'm hoping we'll get more in. We'll order more in and get some more in. So it's, it's very exciting, this being at the beginning, because you can just order new things in and see how things go. So there may be a little delay, but we can probably get them in again. And I have to thank you all for your amazing feedback on Facebook. You've been sending us some lovely ideas, lovely suggestions for the show, which have been great. And watch out for next week. We've got such exciting things coming. I'm really, really, really excited. And you can tell, and I should have cut these all before we started. Sorry, it must be very boring watching me cut hacks of quarters. The great thing with this, if I had the sense to have opened these all up at the same time, I could have cut them all out. I'm looking across at my little table here and saying, gosh, I look like I'm in a little bazaar with all the fabric all curled up. Oh, they're saying now the reason you weren't allowed to cut the squares out before is because we knew what we would have been left with. They're probably right. Oh. So unfortunately, the only reason I'm keeping you going to make the whole key is the most important thing of the process. So bear with me. I'm sure you're all bored stiff, but I promise you it does help you, and it is going to help you in the long run. Because if you get this wrong, it's wrong through the whole quilt, and it's so important. I've taught this class a few times, and I had one lady make literally 2/3 of the quilt. And when she made the quilt, she looked at me and she said, something's wrong. And the two of us had checked this, and we looked and we realized she'd left the grey strip out the middle. So, and she was 2/3 finished, so there was absolutely no way she was going to fix that. Of course. So just to get, in case all of you want to see the color, the picture that we're doing, what we're doing, they're just zooming in now. So you can see this grey fabric, but you can see that grey fabric there. That poor lady had left the grey fabric out. It still worked and still looked lovely, but you can see that's quite a key element to leave out. But you can see now Bargello actually means movement. And in here you can see the movement of fabric. And that's why I chose spots and planes, to make sure that the movement was all about the quilt. And there's a lot of movement in this quilt. So what we're going to do now, and I'm just referring to the instructions to triple check I've got this the right way round. And you'll see that there is a key. So the first thing we're going to do, but the thing with this is the reason I'm doing this again is to make sure that you get the right colours in the right place, because we've changed the colours ever so slightly. And like anything in world, where is my pink? So this is very easy to do. All I've done is I've folded the page in half. Hopefully you will have a less messy pen than I did. Use a pencil. Fold the page in half, draw a line. I went 1 inch over there, 1 inch over there, and then I just divided it in 14 all the way down, because there are 27 pieces all the way along. So that is there. That's 5. We're down to only 5 left in the bundle, and we're not even halfway through the show. I'm going to have to get on to the ladies to make sure that they order more in, because we need to make sure we get all of these. Right, where am I? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm doing the purple and the dark purple. And then we're doing this purple. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that you lose a piece. All of this is in your instructions. I'm just doing this now so we know when I come back to this, I've forgotten number 9. So when I've got a piece of fabric later that I can't find, it's number 9. So for me, I'm quite, because I'm an accountant as well, and I'm also incredibly lazy and I make a lot of mistakes, I want to make sure that I've always got the key to make sure that it all flows beautifully. And the good thing as well is once you give it away as a gift, or somebody has seen it, fallen in love and made you make another one, don't ask me how I know that happens, you then end up having the key to be able to go back and do it. And you've saved yourself all the trouble. They've just said, ignore me. And I'm like, I'm ignoring you right now because I'm distracted. That's what it is. I've got 2 pigs. That's where it goes. So I found number 9. So once you've done the first 14, so the great way of doing it, and I'm not going to do it with this incredible Elna machine because I'm sure somebody would be very cross. I'm going to put that down with a little piece of sellotape. But the best thing I've ever seen is somebody's done that with a little bit of sellotape, and then they've taken it to their sewing machine, and they've then, can I do it? Would I be allowed to do that? Probably not. So what you do is you can do the sellotape, and if you want to keep it down, you then put that through your sewing machine and you stitch it all the way down. Are you going to mind if I do that? That's actually a very good point. We don't want to damage the needle on it. So you've got the first layer there. The same with foundation paper piecing. When you're doing that, you've got to make sure that you use a different needle. So we've got that one. No, we're not changing the needle. We don't have time. I've got to show you how to make the quilt. Right, so that one goes there. And I know this is laborious, and I know everybody's thinking, what on earth? You've got to get this right. It's really, really, really important. So that's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21... 22, and it's so important to make sure that you do this. My dear friend Angie always, and this is the one who the quilt's made after, she says, preparation is key. If you get the prep right, everything will flow. And unfortunately, she's not wrong. So we had a message in from Hayley. Hello. Oh, hello, Hayley. Thank you very much. She's just joined us today. She's not seen me on air before. And she's asked me how I got into quilting. Perhaps I shouldn't have pulled the sellotape out at the same time then. Sorry. So I'm an accountant, and I love numbers. And being an accountant, and unfortunately, boys aren't normally encouraged to go and do arts and crafts and lovely things like this. I just wanted to do crafting of some kind. So I started with knitting and crochet. Sorry. And then I started with knitting and crochet, and I did that, and I loved it, but it wasn't quite giving me that zing that I wanted. And then I thought, well, let me give the sewing a go. And then I bought a sewing machine, and I left it in the corner, and it stared at me for 6 or 7 months. And because I was terrified, how on earth do you thread this thing? And then you go onto YouTube and you look and they talk about a walking foot, and I was like, I have no idea what these people are on about. So then I thought, no, I must go and get some, went and joined a quilting group in London, and they showed me a book on crazy patchwork. And that book on crazy patchwork completely changed my life and ruined my husband's. And I then became completely and utterly addicted to fabric. And I've got a huge collection of fabric, which I have 16,000 meters of fabric. I definitely have more fabric than I have lifetime. I'm looking up and Kat has actually collapsed on the floor, giggling. Our camera lady has fallen on the floor, looking and going, what? But anybody who's ever been to my studio or seen it on social media, you'll see I'm not joking. So now, so Hayley, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that answers your question, and I'm completely addicted to it, and I'm never going to stop. And I think I've now got a long arm quilter, and I think I'm on quilt number 109 at the moment, because I quilt other people's quilts as well. So, yeah. And at the moment, now you have created your key, and you can see, you're like, what on earth? So you can see there, and I'm going to do this backwards. That's number 1, that's your first colour. That's number 2, that's your colour. 3, and so on, all the way along. But I'm going to make sure that I've got to ask them to go back onto camera 2, only because when you refer back to this on your YouTube video, you'll be able to always see what the key is and what order. You do get the key in your instructions, but I just think it's important because visual people like myself like to refer back. So there you go. You now have the instructions. And what you're going to do now is I'm going to slide that a little bit over because you are going to cut that into 3-inch strips, all of these, and you need 3 3-inch strips. These scissors are fabulous. These scissors are really good. $9.99, special offer with Fiskars. If you haven't got them already, have a little look because they're so comfy. Right, so we now are going to cut all of these strips. You're going to put them, and if you want to do 3 or 4 layers, that's fine. You must do what's comfortable for you. And now this whole process is down to consistency. When you're cutting everything out, you need them to be 3-inch strips. And once you've got them into 3-inch strips, you're going to take your fabric key and you're going to sew everything together. And I'm going to do this the wrong way round. So when you're doing this, one of the things I get asked the most is, how do I actually sew these all in a straight line? And I know that does sound like a silly question, but it is very, very important. And yesterday's show, if you haven't seen it, go back and look and you'll see there are some amazing glass-headed pins. And what I said was, there are two different colors there. One's green and one's brown. And the important thing with that is when you're pinning your fabric, you've always got to sew in different directions. So where you've got number 1 and number 2, you're going to sew from this direction to that direction. But now when you come to put number 3 on, you're going to sew from this direction to that direction. Now you don't have to do that, but if you don't do that, you're going to get a lovely bow in your quilt. Reason being, 2 reasons. First of all, if you keep going in the same direction and you're left or right-handed, it doesn't matter, you're going to pull the fabric ever so slightly in that direction, and the fabric hangs off the side here, and it will then weigh it down ever so slightly, and that's what part of the reason why a bow develops. So you're always going in opposite directions. My top tip on it is, all my odd numbers, I put a big T on, and all my even numbers, I put a big B on, and that's in the selvage, which you're going to cut off anyway. And when you do that, you know you're sewing from top to bottom, and from this one is bottom. So if you go to that end and there's nothing written on it, then you're like, okay, I'm sewing that way down. It's really important. And I've just realized, as I've said that, when you go to the other end, if you're all writing them on one side, there'll be no writing on there. So obviously you're writing T for top on this one, B for bottom on that one, T for top on this one, B for bottom on that one. Otherwise you're going to be like, huh? John said I should do it that way. So it's make sure you put the bottom on the bottom and the top on the top. But all of this is in the instructions. It's just things like that. It's important to just remember to do it, because otherwise you end up with a little bow, and nobody wants a bow. So, and now you'll see that with these, when I've done the fabric key, you're going to see that these, it looks very, very similar in your colors online, but this color is slightly different to what we've got in the bundle, because this is what I had in my pre-prepared stash, and the colors were slightly different when we made the new design on it. So bear with me when this being slightly different, but you can see even on the overhead it's not that different, but when you then look at it from far away, it will definitely pop with a brighter color. So you're going to sew all of these in the same in the numbers from number 1 all the way down to, I think I've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I've done them in groups of 10. You can do them in groups of 8. You can do them however you like. You must be comfortable. The only thing I would say to you is, with the length that you're going to put for the strips, make sure that it's the same length of the ruler you're going to be using. So that's my only tip on it, because it's important to be able to have the ruler to do one cut all the way through. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut these, but I'm going to just separate this out. So I've got one of each of these strip sets. And as I said before, the colours are slightly different just because I'd already sewn these and there wasn't enough time to re-sew these. So please bear with me. The colours that are on the screen with the bundle is what you're going to get. And don't crease these up when you've done them. But I don't know what you're talking about, Hannah. Hannah's just said, have you just creased those up? I'm going to go, no. Sorry, I'm on this new health tea thing and I'm drinking matcha tea. Oh, Hannah loves the matcha tea. Do you want it? Apparently it's very good for you. It's apparently very good for you and brings you a lot of energy, and it's a lot better than coffee, allegedly. Is it sorry, Hannah just said in my ear that it's actually got more caffeine in it than coffee does. Ooh, like it. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a bit more energy at the very early starts we've all got, getting everything ready for you all. So now the very first cut is the deepest. Sorry, couldn't resist. It was too easy. It was there for the taking. So what I do here, and it's only because I'm going to do it anyway, even if it destroys the shot. 30 seconds, 3 seconds, I'm going to just rotate this round. Health and safety and all that. And you need to also make sure, I actually was chatting to a lady yesterday, who I'm going. So yesterday afternoon, after I left the show, I went to go and visit my lovely friend Angie, who this quilt's named after, to go to the Duxford Quilt Festival, because it's on twice a year. And I love going to Duxford because it's just such a cute little spot where you've got all these beautiful planes and rockets and everything. So you can drop the husband off for several hours and he will be kept entertained, hopefully. And you can go around and buy lots of fabric and do all of that. I mean, you can just look at the fabric and chat to your friends. You didn't buy anything. None of our husbands believe that, but we try it anyway. So what I'm doing here is, you can tell I've sewn all of these together in order of the key, and I'm just now making sure when I do 3 layers that it's all nice and smooth and flat. Sorry, say that again? Now, if you're a brand new quilter and you want to do one at a time, that's absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong with doing this how you are most comfortable. I am a little bit more confident on it, so I don't mind doing a few more layers. So this ruler is brand new today, and oh, it's so good. We love creative grids. Well, I love creative grids. So the great thing about this creative grid ruler is, I'm going to just flip this round, and you don't need to move anything. You can see that this has got a little bit of a ridge. That's got a little bit of a ridge, and doing this upside down, I can't put my finger on the right ridges, but you can see it's got this sort of, it's like a bit like sandpaper, but it's not. And it's just, it holds the ruler in place, and it doesn't move very much when you're actually cutting, because we all have these rulers where everything is a little bit like, oops, but this one doesn't. Now, when I started quilting, everybody said to me, go and get a 6-inch ruler by 24-inch. And I listened to them, and I did that. And I regretted it for one reason only, is that extra 1/2 inch that's on this ruler, you will be able to then cut a 6.5-inch square. So your square is 6 inches over. And you will be able to find more affordable rulers on here. But I think creative grids, we all do it when we're starting out. We buy something because it's cheap. And we then end up, a bit more affordable, and you don't want to spend too much money because you're not quite sure. But the price of this ruler is actually very, very competitive to the slightly more affordable brands, and you're just spending £1 or £2 more buying a perfect ruler that you're going to use for the rest of your quilting life. Because I promise you, once you've made 1 or 2, you're done. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to ask for the overhead, and I'm going to point you to, if we can, any way of zooming in? It does zoom in. They're bearing with. I'm going to move. No, you're fine. You keep moving. I'm watching it on the screen. So you'll see as you're going along here, this is in your instructions. This is an A3 page, and I have done this as large as it can be. And my head's now in the way, I'm hearing. So you'll see at the very top along here, and when you buy the pattern and you have a look, you'll be able to see that it says column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 6, column 7. And then underneath it, it's got a width. So you'll see this one says 2, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 2 1/4, 2, and it goes down with all the different the dimensions. So you'll see the column number at the top, and then the width that you're doing. And then you've got numbers row 1 to 27. So if I can cast your mind back to our wonderful fabric key, which goes from number 1 to number 27, what you're looking for here is, you can tell, so number 1 is fabric 1. Now, what I've done at the moment is I've got the key upside down, so I'm going to rotate this the correct way, and I'm going to put that next to it. So you can see there's fabric 1, which is there. There's fabric 2, there's fabric 3, there's fabric 4, and there's fabric 5. So my top tip when you're doing this, when you've got your little strip that's cut out and ready to go, always take it, and it's so important, take it, put it against your key, and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and check it back to the key. Because the number of times I've done it, especially when you get to the blues and you put it down and you're going 23, 24, 25, and the fabric's going the wrong way to the key, can you see there that I'm going the wrong way? But you won't notice that unless your key is perfect. And the key you will refer to at every single cut, every single time you're sewing something together. It sounds laborious, but I promise you, it's a hell of a lot better than unpicking. So you sit there and you count all of these out and do it each time you do it. So I'm just going to cut out the first 3 or 4 so you can see where we are. At the moment, now when you're using the ruler, make sure you're using from 0 and get the width correct. So my first cut, and remember when I said to you about how lovely the markings are because they're in black and in white? So I flipped that over because I had them lying the wrong way. So my first cut is 2 inches. So I line everything up for 2 inches. I love it. I've got Haley in my ear going, no, it's 2.5, isn't it? I'm like, no, it's not. Don't question me. And now we've got the overhead. It's really good that you can see. Can you see you've got the white lines? There we go. You've got the white lines there. And no, go back up, back up, back up. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. You've got the white lines there, and you've got the black lines, and you've got the white lines. And that's on your darker fabric. And it's just perfect because you've got the white lines that go along where you're cutting. And it's just so much easier. So there we go. 2.25 is your next one. Now, my top tip with these is when you do it, put them in the order you've cut them and cut them as you go. And of course, I'll slide these back into shot in a few seconds. I'm going to just cut 3 or 4. So what I do is I don't label them at this point because we're about to sew them into a circle. And when they're in a circle, that's when I label them. But you can, if you're more comfortable labeling them as you go, just write numbers. You're going to have 46 columns. So you write numbers 1 to 46 on little squares of paper and pin them to each bundle that you've got, because you've got to just be very, very organized in how you do this. It's not hard. You've just got to be really organized in the way you lay it all out. But I just find that I'm lucky I've got a studio where I've got the space, I can do it. What was my 5th one? 2 inches. And there's no way you could do this without a 24-inch ruler. And this one I do say, because I actually do use a different one, but I am definitely buying one of these. They are lovely. And it's the grip on it, because as you're cutting, we all do it, and the ruler moves ever so slightly. You get a little bit of a wobble or a wiggle. This one's not going anywhere. And the good thing is now, even if you are a little bit nervous about this and you've decided you're going to put 10 of these together, and you can see at the top, if I slide this down a bit, you can see I've folded this over. Don't worry, because the ruler's got the grip. The ruler's put a little bit of weight on the top of it, and you've got everything, it's all under the ruler, and the ruler's so good, it just presses everything down. And it's no damage to anything, it's not going to be damage to you. So what I do with this, you'll see that on here, you can see at the top here, I've pressed these seams open. Now, the great debate of whether you press your seams open or closed, I don't really get involved in all of that. I'm going to tell you what's worked for me on these Bargellos, and I have made many, is I find these strip sets, if you press your seams open, your life is a lot easier. And the reason being is that when you come to line them all up, which I'm hoping I haven't been chatting too long and I've been able to show you at the end of the demo, when you line this all up, oh yes, we've got enough time. So there we go, I've cut those all up, and I'm screwing them into a little ball and hiding them under the counter and having a sip of my matcha caffeine tea. And I'm pleased to tell you this is the first of many Creative Grids rulers coming in, because I've got a whole load in my studio and I'm going to be practicing them. So I'm hoping they forget it's there, but they won't, and I would never do that anyway. And it's so cheap to buy them here, I'd buy them anyway. So now what you're going to do, remember I said to you every step of the way you're referring to your key. You've got your key in your hand. This is really important. You've got your piece of fabric. At this stage, you're not looking at your A3 sheet anymore. All you're doing is you're creating a circle, okay? So, and I've just realized I've made a mistake on my key. And you can see on here for number 27 and 26, I put those the wrong way round. You should always have dot plain, dot plain. And that's why the good thing is you always double check, because you're going to make that mistake as well. Hopefully not. You won't be doing it on live television with 3 people talking in your ear and doing all those things, so bear with me while I rip these out. And the good thing is having used just so much sellotape and not actually stitched it on, you can do that very easily. So can we just pretend that didn't happen? I'm not going to be invited back after all this. Sorry about that. So as we showed you before, you go dot, plain, dot, plain. So 27 is plain, 26 is a dot. Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be a professional. Sorry about that, boys and girls. So what you're doing now is you need to remember as well that from 27, you're going back to number 1. So from 27, you sew that to number 1. And number 1's going to go that way. So first things first, you give the iron a little bit of a shake to get it back up and alive. Right sides together, so you can check that you've got your right sides together. Your 1/4 inch is vital. If you want to use a 1/4 inch foot, that works. That's great. I can't sew with my shoe on, so I'm moving that off there. And off you go. And that does not look like a good 1/4 inch. Oh, it is. Never mind. Take that back. Sorry. But now, have we all seen this excellent 680 machine? It's very pretty. It's very pretty. So what you've done now is you've got number 1 all the way down to number 10, and then number 11 goes on to number 10. Again, right sides together, and you put them all the way through. So the great thing, I don't know, did everybody watch the Jane Brogan show with Vix about this beautiful machine? It's so lovely. And 5-year warranty? 5-year warranty, which comes as standard. Only on the stock that we've got there. So the great thing now is, so you've only got 2 ends that are loose left. I'm trying to get these the right way. So make sure that you get these 2 that are left over. Now, it doesn't matter if you create a loop. It doesn't matter because you're going to unpick it. You're going to now sew those 2 together, right sides together, and you're just going to put that into a 1/4 inch. And I've moved. There we go. Oh. So, you've got a circle. You can wear it on your head. So at this point, I mark that number 1. I put my little pin in it and I mark it as number 1. And then I chain piece all of these together. So chain piecing is you take them to your machine and, sorry, where is my navy? My navy and my pebbly. So again, number 1 to 27. Now I've done this 67 trillion times. I know the key by heart. So do not rely on what you think you know. Always check to the key because you're going to make a mistake. We all do it. Oh, what have I done? So now we're going to sew the pink to the pink. How are we doing on the stock on this, girls? Oh, very limited. Oh, I'm so excited. So we've got the quilt kit. For those of you just joining us, you're getting 15 meters of fabric. It's £111.99. That includes not only the instructions and the A4 page, but obviously this demo is saved on YouTube forever and ever, amen. And you can always refer back to it because that way then, and the instructions are free in the bundle and you get the big A3 key with the instructions. And you've got more than enough to be able to make 2 of these quilts, but you've only got enough of the navy border fabric to make 1 border. But there are literally only a handful of these left. So if they're in your basket, please make sure you check out because they're not yours until you've actually bought them. And with the 1-day P&P, if you change your mind later in the day and you want to buy something else, you can then come back in and you only get charged 1 P&P of $3.95 a day. And that doesn't matter if you do the website or whether you do the call center. It doesn't matter how you do it, you only pay 1 P&P. We are going to try and recreate this bundle. We're just not sure when because we're not sure with the stock from the supplier. We need to just make sure that we've got everything in. But the great thing is we've listened to your feedback and we've been able to bring you, I've lost a piece, sorry. There we go. Oh, and they've corrected my name spelling. Thank you very much. So what we've done is we've listened to you and we've brought you just the pattern on its own because many of us do have the stash that we want to use. Just remember what I said earlier. If you haven't watched the show from the beginning, just go back to the beginning of the show and you'll see what I said about making sure you get the contrast and popping the colors to be able to do that. So we have now, Right, I've now sewn 4 of these together while we've been chatting, or while I've been chatting. And now you just need to make sure again that you put these back in the order that they come off of. So if you're chain piecing them, they're going backwards. You're putting them back into your bundle backwards because obviously the last one you did is the highest number in your pack. Right, so that was number 1 that we did earlier. That was one that I did before. And this is number 2. Right, so you've now sewn your circles and you're going to have 46 of these. 46 different ones of different lengths and different heights, different lengths. And I've shown you how we did all of that. The column is at the top. I think probably if I go here and I can point, that'll make life a little easier for you. So we've got, I'm going to rush through this next section. So you can now follow this through and check with your key that you're going in the right order. Yes, this is. The very first colour at the top here is number 1. And I've just realised I don't have an unpicker. Is there one in the machine? Oh, Genomi's have always got, Elna's have always got, look at that. I love it. You get lots of free things with this wonderful machine. So what you're going to do is between number 27 and number 1, you're going to unpick that line. And you're making sure that you're going to aim to get your strips the same as this chart. So that's your first one. And then your second one is, we need to do between numbers 1 and number 2 because your first colour is number 2. If we could go maybe 5 more minutes maybe, that'd be great. I've had permission to be extending the show just to make sure I get this to it. I love it. Ask and we shall bring it to you if we can. That's the thing. Make sure you stay on our social media. I still have the login for the Instagram, so I love it. I keep calling it the Instagram. You can tell how old I am. So now at the, oh, lovely. Kat's just asked me what's going on, and obviously the grey of number 1 is at the bottom. So that'll be at the very bottom of your quilt. And everything now, the bright pink, which is number 3, well, it'll be a slightly redder colour in your... So as you're going along, you can still see it's in a straight line. And that's where I said if you twist, it doesn't matter because look, now you're all flat. So the top colour there, although the bright pink was the first colour on the last run, is now on the bottom. So it's your last colour on the bottom. And what I'll do is once I've unpicked all of these, I'm going to do 4 of these so you can see where I'm going. You can then I'll show you the picture of how this all works. Well, I'm hoping this is coming across as a really simple quilt. It does take a little bit of time to do the prep and getting your head around all of that, but I promise you, it is so worth it. And that's why the instructions I've tried to make them nice and easy because I feel like I'm an idiot a lot of the time, and if I can understand them, anyone can understand them because anybody's brighter than I am on these things. And I'm going to bring this along here so I can show you. Sorry, little Elna, I'm going to cover you up quickly. So you can see, hopefully, if I fold the border in. Oh, you'll be able to see my beautiful quilting on this. Oh, come on. Because that's why I think it's really important, the curved quilting that I've done on this shows the fabric and the design out really well. Now remember the colours over here are slightly different than what you're going to get in your pattern because we've done the exclusive range for Sewing Street. And they're not that different at all. It's just that you'll see that where I've got this bright pink, you've got a red. But you can see, and it just pops so beautifully. And that's the way that we've decided to do it on here. It just works. I think the colours that we've chosen for this are slightly different. So you can see that's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3, that's number 4. And of course, I've covered all my pages and my fabric key. Always, 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 and you just keep going, and you just keep sewing all 46 seams on it. And then you're using this to your fabric key, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do that every single time you put one together. And then you're referring back to your A3 sheet as well, which is column 1, 2, 3, 4. which are the first 4. Directly underneath it, that's 2 inches, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 2 1/4, and then all the measurements are on the side, and then all of these rows tie in with your fabric key. And that is going to make you that absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous quilt. And yeah, I think we've done it. I think we're there. But I have to say that this has been made a lot, and I've made this many times. This Creative Grids ruler is a lot easier to use than what I've been using, because these little, I don't know what, they're not serrated. They're almost like a little water, you know that water paper you get? Not sandpaper, it's not, but it's just a little bit of, it's got a little bit of roughness on it. But it is so, so lovely to use, and it holds the fabric really nice in place, and it doesn't slip. So you can see all these little, they're like, I don't know what you'd call them, like dimply bits. They're built-in grips, because you can buy sprays and things. I'm not really keen on the sprays personally, because I prefer these little gridded bits. Because also when you get those lovely sprays that everybody advertises, and I'm more of a fan of it being built in, because I'm incredibly lazy and I don't want to spray anything on my ruler. I don't want to then have to clean it and all the stuff gets on it. Sorry, I'm very lazy. I like that, easy. So they've sold me on that. I hope you will as well. Remember, rotary cutter, if you've got it open, remember John screaming in your ear, £5 to cancer research. Lock your rotary cutter. This is left or right. And yes, Ed, I was saying I was at Duxford. I had a call from somebody and they told me that they took the top of their finger off with one of these just yesterday. So please, it happens every single day, unfortunately. Be cautious. These are blades. They can cause harm. But this is a really good one. This is the one the lovely Sylvia always uses. I'm more of a fan of the other one because I'm lazy and I don't want to press the button. But this is Sylvia's favourite rotary cutter. This is on the website as well. And also we did a show, when was that? Sunday, with the different rotary cutters and things. I think those are still on the website. So refer back to that if you're looking for a new rotary cutter. And the large cutting mat is really, really key, especially if you're going to cut these slightly, you're going to do the 10-inch strips on it, because a good rotary cutting mat is so important, because this is the largest one that we can get. Wait, I wonder if I can put this back up the same way like I did before. Watch, this is where the whole thing comes down at the end of the show, and done. So this cutting mat, it's huge. Absolutely huge. You can't even see me over it. It is so lovely. And it's really great. Because as well, what I did at the very beginning was I bought a rotary mat. I bought a rotary cutting mat, which was a little less expensive. But I had to buy 3 or 4 of them because they wore out so quickly. And this is a really, really good price on this mat. And you're going to use it for years, absolute years. This is on inches on one side, centimetres on the other. You've got your degree lines, 30 degree, 45, 60 degree, which are your main lines. And the great thing is they've got it on both sides of the board, so you can then cut from either way. It's just brilliant. And remember, if you've seen something on the show, it's only 1 P&P for the whole day. We have limited stock of these available for you as the instructions on their own. We've got the bundle, which is down to less than, how many have we got left? Can you tell? Oh my word, we only got about 2 left. So if you are interested in getting the kit with 15 meters of fabric, all the instructions, please make sure that you do check out. And unless you paid for it, it's not yours. And we were also on single figures. Is that right for this pattern on its own? We're in the teens on the single pattern on its own, so please check out if you're interested in it. And again, I'm on social media. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, that would be great. Just get in touch with there. So we have a message from Heather. Hello, Heather. She's going, yay. She's watching me live on YouTube. And you've ordered the Bargello kit. You're going to love it, and you're going to need to make 2. It does look complicated. But I have and she's saying, I'm sure John's broken it down. And I really, really have. And I've just heard back feedback that people are commenting on how good the demo was and how they feel confident doing this. So thank you so much. My first demo, my first presenting thing, I didn't cut a finger off. I didn't do any harm. I may have damaged some fabric along the way. But there we go. So tomorrow, I hope you join me for Stripology. And we've got the most beautiful fabrics. I can't wait to show you. And I'm so glad you were able to join us. Please keep following us on Facebook, and the website again, in case you didn't know, www.sewingstreet.com. Our UK-based call centre, you've got the number on screen. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was really good to spend time with you. Go well. Bye-bye.